Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are not dead yet. Welcome to the RWBY podcast. I am your host, and learning how to draw for the very first time, or not the first time, but taking it seriously this time. I am the scribe of Night Watch Mediocrity 4.
I'm actually not dead. First time on voice chat with these guys in over 2 years, I think now. Um, Here to spread the good news of Girls in Panzer and visual novels and full degeneracy. It's Dude.
Well, guys, as I was sitting in the Korean barbecue restaurant eating my bude jjigae, as I am wont to do, I noticed today that all of the white serving girls working there were not as toe-tappingly excited by the funk of K-pop as they used to be. And this brought me to the conclusion that the K-pop wave is coming to a crash soon, and a new wave is about to rise. A new metal wave. I'm Coop.
You always have to tell a story with your introductions.
They never end. They're still the best.
So the reason why we're together for the first time in 2 years, we finally got confirmation that RWBY Volume 10 is happening. So just a bit of a recap. 2 years ago, Volume 9 ended. I actually really liked it. I actually just rewatched it this past week. It actually holds up much better than I even thought it did. I really, really like it. A lot of people are just objectively wrong about it. Rooster Teeth was already falling on hard times. RWBY was making a lot of money, but was also costing a lot of money, and everything they were doing was costing money and not making money. So Rooster Teeth shut down. They closed their doors. Everyone lost their job. And the rights to RWBY got scooped up like months and months later. It got scooped up by Viz Media. Now, Viz has already worked with RWBY in the past. They are responsible for the manga that came out a couple years ago, which I think is probably the best RWBY has ever looked at. It's a toss-up between that and the Shiro Miwa manga. There's some things I prefer about the Shiro Miwa adaptation and some things I prefer about the Viz adaptation. They still have problems because they're still trying to adapt Volume 1 in as many of, like, beat for beat as they can, within their own constraints, and that's just not great. The main problem with Volume 1, which we've gotten several versions of Volume 1 now, the main problem I have with Volume 1 is present in every single iteration, which is the fact that it's a story about a team coming together where the team never actually comes together. So RWBY was in limbo. It was on hiatus. Carrie Shawcross, the director and writer, kept on saying, like, we kind of know what we want from Volume 10, but we really need someone to finance it. We really need someone to actually greenlight it. And then a few weeks ago, Viz came out with a fan survey, where they asked RWBY fans, like, what do they want in the future, like, as far as everything goes, podcast, games, film, animation, everything you could think of, they kind of asked about in that survey. And then, like, a week after that, they announced RWBY Volume 10 is officially greenlit. They are now starting on scripting. We have no idea when the release date will be, but I'm happy for it. Everyone I know is happy for it. Even people who hate RWBY are happy for it because it just feeds the content machine online. RWBY is the internet equivalent of fucking McDonald's, I guess.
It kind of is, like, especially, like, honestly, the thing is, Volume 9, I haven't watched it since we watched it originally. I should go back and rewatch it. Honestly, I've actually thought about going back and rewatching the whole series at some point in the near future. But I'm busy consuming other, even
Better
shittier
shows.
content.
Oh.
Better shows. I mean, is Girls in Panzer better or worse? That's the thing. It's great and awful at the same time. You know what I mean?
It's
And
better.
again, like I said, I've read I think I've spent since February. I think I've spent 250 hours reading visual novels, and that's on top of a full time job and exercising, working out an hour a day, 6 days a week, and driving 2.5 hours there and back. So that's literally all I'm doing. Is I'm a hikikomori if a hikikomori went to work. That's and actually lifted weights. That's what I am now. So I do want to rewatch RWBY at some point because it's like I think partly because of this podcast. It's the show I have interestingly like the most history with, even though it's definitely not even like it's hard to call it a favorite show, right? But because it's gone up and down so much, and the thing that I cared the most about, Renora got fucking boned hard last season. Still mad about that. And but season 9, volume 9 was really good. The ending was not didn't quite stick the landing on the ending. I feel like, but for the most part, it's one of the best volumes. I think I still remember like John fucking losing his shit, Ruby fucking losing the will to live. Like it went harder uh, than any of the other volumes really have for a show that always was like trying to seem edgier and darker than it really was. That's the way I always kind of thought of RWBY. And then this volume kind of got more into that stuff, and I liked that about it. I thought it was going to be dumb. I remember before it started, I think we even talked about this, like, oh, they're just like ripping off Alice in Wonderland. It's going to be stupid. And then I ate my words because it was great. I remember being a hater of it, like the concept of it. I thought I was going to hate it, and I loved it. So it's like I'm actually care to get another volume. One, because they need to fucking fix my fucking ship. It's been leaking for 2 years. I need a patch job on this stat. But then, in addition to that, like the last one was actually good. So I actually want to see what they're going to do. So I'm actually very happy this is happening. It's not just like, and it's a good excuse to hang out with you guys again. But also, like, I'm actually excited.
RWBY is so fun to talk about. Like, I think that's one of the most
It is.
understated things about RWBY. Like, it fucks up on some very fundamental bases. Like, every volume has, like, some kind of systemic flaw that you just can't get rid of without just rewriting the whole damn thing. But there's so many, like, good little nuggets. In fact, I think I've said this before, where like there's so many fun little details in RWBY that are so great that it actually works to the show's detriment. Like
Yes, exactly. Because it raises your expectations.
One of the earliest examples of this is in Volume 1, Players and Pieces, where you see Blake's bow twitching, and it's a hint at the cat ears underneath. But then you start looking for that stuff, and half the time it's actually just a fucking glitch in the animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I've noticed this. It's like you can say this with any form of media. Um, when you're trying to do something really fucking cool, like really like you're trying to make something really amazing, and you just can't quite stick the landing. Sometimes that ends up being worse than just aiming for the middle of the road and just nailing the middle of the road, right? It's almost like
Well,
it's like some people people hate the end of the mate. Like what do people get more mad at? The what's the series? The fucking Fast and Furious franchise continuing, or the end of the Matrix series, right? Because the Matrix was a much higher concept thing, very cool, but then the last movie was absolute trash and it kind of ruined everything. And then you have the Fast and Furious franchise, which just keeps pushing out the same mid-quality writing, but it's consistent in terms of what people are asking for. So everybody's cool with it, basically. Like you either like it or you don't, and nobody really complains because you know what you're getting with it, right? And RWBY is trying to go like be really clever and smart and creative, and sometimes it nails it, and sometimes it misses by a fucking country mile. And I think that is what makes it more fun to talk about. Is because they're swinging for the fences. They miss. They something when they hit, it's fun to talk about, and then when they miss, it's also really fun to talk about.
I think I'm slightly in disagreement with you there. I think at currently, yes, that is how RWBY was. I think originally RWBY was actually aiming for the middle and still missing a whole bunch. So,
That's fair. That's fair. That's
so
fair.
I'm
You're
I'm
right
I'm
about
pretty
that.
sure they just kind of suck, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Well, I think that's a good point. You're right, because especially the first two volumes, they were definitely aiming for the middle of the room. I think with volume three was the thing that like actually kind of there's two things that started RWBY. The red trailer, that gave RWBY all the hype, right? Because Monty animation, obviously Ruby's design it's still fucking amazing. Like her design is cool as shit. The fucking giant scythe, all that
Yeah,
stuff,
I mean,
it's
it
fucking
says a lot that, like, they never change her design that much. Like, they
yeah,
struck
exactly.
fucking gold with
Yeah,
the, like,
with
goth
hers
Lolita, with the goth
especially.
Lolita, flowery
Yeah,
skirt, red cape, even the hair. Like, I prefer her, like, volumes 1 through 3 hair, but I also really like the kind of anime protag hairstyle she gets during the Atlas volumes.
yes, yes, but I still think like her fit is still probably the best in volume one. Like that is still probably the best fit anybody's had in the show, which that's the one you got to nail. The main character in the first volume, and also it's just like black and red. It's edgy, but black and red always looks good. And then she's got the fucking scythe. My phone background is still an anime girl with a scythe. It's not RWBY, but it's basically an anime girl with a scythe. That's cool. People like that shit. Okay, so that really hyped people up. And then volume three, like actually killing Pyrrha, actually cutting Yang's arm off, like shit actually going to hell. People actually like Ozpin, quote unquote dying. Still fuck Oscar. But that actually raised the stakes so much, and they actually went to something that's what kind of showed that they were trying harder. And I would argue in that volume they mostly did a pretty decent job. And that's what got me actually into the series to care about it. Because I mean, that's when we started the podcast. Was 4 episodes into volume 4 because we were hype off volume 3. So that's when they started trying harder, and that's when they really started missing a lot more. And it
I
became
I would say it was actually, yeah, volume 3, probably. Volume 4 was fine, I think. Uh,
yeah, I agree. I think we've always been like the podcast that defended volume 4, even though I think most fans didn't really like it.
I think
Volume
that
5 was
I think the
shit.
problem with it was that it was kind of like built off of Volume 3, and Volume 3 itself did actually have a whole lot of stuff that was kind of bad about it. That
Yeah,
and and worse, it did sort of Volume 3, I would say, is probably what laid the foundation that the rest of the show had to work off of, and it was a really bad foundation
yeah, especially
that
like the maidens and stuff, which don't really matter, like as much as they probably should.
I forgot the maidens existed.
Well, I mean, we
You
haven't
could totally,
seen them since the end of Volume 8. Like that's
yeah.
another thing about like Volume 9 is that like it disengages from all the main plot and all of the fucking baggage that comes with it. Like not all the emotional baggage, like the baggage of like Ruby's plan fucking up is very much the crux of the entire emotional through line of the volume, but like there's no Salem, there's no Cinder, there's no maidens, no kingdoms, no headmasters, no relics. The gods get like a fucking cameo mention at the very end. Uh and in
restate
doing
their origin
so,
yet again.
yeah, and in doing so, like it kind of like got back to what got people invested, because like as much as the trailers kick all sorts of ass, what made those trailers so fun, like, and what makes a good fight scene is the personality. The four main girls and John, love him or hate him, he had a very strong, well defined personality as early as Volume 1, and that's what got people invested. That's what made it more than just a flash in the pan action series with fights that people forget about as soon as it's over. And Volume 9 was able to, like, really lean into those personalities a lot more, with the exception of Weiss. I think Weiss was done dirty in Volume 9. She's the weak link in that volume, turning her into a gag character. But there's still, like, even with Weiss, there's little nuggets. Like, her being the first one to acknowledge that, like, hey, we haven't really been asking RWBY if she's alright. This is kind of on us too. Like, we weren't there for her the way that we should have been because we just assumed that she was okay. Like, that little moment from Weiss is the best moment Weiss has had since Volume 6? Volume 5? Volume 4? I'm just trying to, like,
I would agree with that.
replay all the, like, cool Weiss moments. Like, Weiss reunited with Yang was pretty good. That was Volume 5. She just hasn't done a whole lot. She didn't do a whole lot in Volume 6. She did technically a lot in Volume 7.
Was telling her dad off. That was the last really cool thing
that was Volume 7.
Yeah.
But, like,
that was also kind of like the only thing that was basically left for her to do. Is the thing.
Yes.
And their options were either do it then, or I don't know, wait for a really long time to do it and have her do nothing in between. So, like,
which is what they did with Renora, and that was way worse.
Yeah, that's the downside of resolving an arc at an inopportune moment, because, like, a lot of Weiss's personal growth and development was basically finished up by the end of Volume 3, and Volume 4 was just her, like, taking that home with her and showing, like, how this new version of Weiss is changing, is affected by, you know, going back to her roots and the small temptation, like going back to being Daddy's perfect little princess or being the huntress that RWBY has inspired her to be. And so all that stuff basically gets resolved the moment she runs away from home, and is like, she doesn't have any reason to, like, go back and take over the SDC or anything like that.
I've always been fine with that, though. I like that they made, like, they did her arc. Her arc is one of the better done ones in the show, for being honest, because they didn't try to drag it out. You know what I mean? And so, yes, it's kind of a shame.
There are ways they could have done it, like, kind of, like, made it still good, but still had it take place over a longer time. Like, for instance, if they had made it so that she does, for instance, not making her dad an asshole would have made the conflict over whether or not she should remain loyal to him or leave him a bit more of a conflict. Like, you know, you could have done it that way.
I think that's what they tried doing with Whitley, or that they wanted to do with Whitley, and this is actually what I would do to kind of, like, fix Weiss's character arc throughout Volume 7 and 8. I would put a lot more emphasis on her relationship with Whitley. What was it like before she left with Beacon? We don't know. We don't know what Weiss was actually like at home before she met RWBY. We get, like, little glimpses of it in like some of the supplementary material, as well as Ice Queendom, but it's not in the actual show, and we don't really get the opportunity for that. And that actually brings me to a point I made on Twitter a while back, a few weeks ago, I think. I've mentioned before that RWBY and Star Wars have a lot of bizarre parallels to each other in terms of aesthetics and quality. One such parallel is that they are franchises perfect for multimedia exploitation that were first brought to life in arguably the worst medium for them. For Star Wars, the nuances of the Force and how it affects everything, the galactic politics of the world, Anakin's slow fall from grace as the Republic is corrupted around him, and Luke's ultimate influence on his redemption is really hard to convey in live-action film form. It's a miracle that the original trilogy was as good as it was, and it's a miracle that the prequels weren't so much worse than they actually ended up being. And RWBY is kind of in the same boat. 90% of what could make RWBY an all-time classic gets left on the cutting room floor because it's a web show that has to put all its money on the most key jingling aspects of its premise: the shipping, the fights, the flash and the pan action, the weird internet humor comedy that sometimes is put in at inappropriate times. Like, they literally don't have time to explore any of the deeper themes or relationships that could make the show so much better than it actually is. And that's why, like, I like the comics that have come out for RWBY. I don't like the DC one. The DC one is garbage. But the Viz Media one, the Shiramiwa one is fine. And then the RWBY Anthology series, which isn't even canon, but it's basically in the same vein as like a RWBY Chibi. RWBY Chibi is another example of like people making good on RWBY's premise as far as its characters and their relationships go, that the show itself just never makes time for. Like, it has time for it, but it never makes good use of that time because, oh, we gotta have a 5-minute fight scene where Cinder fights Neo, or, oh, we gotta have this fight scene between Team RWBY and these chess pieces go on for about half the episode because we just have to.
What's RWBY's total runtime looking like now? Like, because I know they've had like different time lengths for their episodes pretty much between each season. Like, so I'm not sure what.
I would have to bust out a count because I have no clue. I know that like Volume 1 was like an hour and a half. Volumes 2 and 3 were both like 3 and 3.5 hours each. I think Volumes 4, 6, I want to say 7, 8. 4, 6, 7, and 8 were all around the same time, like 3.5 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours. Volume 5 was a little longer, and Volume 9 was a little shorter. Like, Volume 9 ended up being like a 2.5 hours.
I mean, we've always been saying, since we've started talking about this show, that the biggest issue with RWBY is them trying too hard to follow the rule of cool. Right? That's the biggest issue with it.
That is an issue. But I think it's an issue that really is rooted in the medium and in the way that they have to, like, put the episodes together to meet that, like, online internet format in a way that still makes money. That's why they put so much emphasis on, like, the ship baiting and on the action, because that's what gets people talking. That's what creates the little 1-minute clips for TikTok and YouTube Shorts and stuff. That's how they market.
So, like, it would have been better as a manga, for example.
Yeah.
Because you don't have... Yeah.
You do get this sort of thing in, like, a lot of different things that they use... sort of like the medium itself kind of bleeds into the work, you know? Like, this is... I would say, like, not manga, but manhwa would be probably the best example of this, where you get long stretches of blank screen because it's based around like scrolling on your phone, and they pad it out artificially using that kind of technique for it. And you know, that's kind of one of the more negative aspects of it, along with some other stuff. So I can see how Rooster Teeth's original sort of like old school YouTube culture bled into the idea around RWBY, and it's sort of remained rooted in that ever since, kind of. If what I'm saying makes any sense, I don't know that it does. Back then, it was more like their area was meant to be like sort of an everything in the kitchen sink type of deal. Like, they were a comedy thing, but they were also an action thing. They had like some of Red versus Blue leaking into it, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're trying to be all things to all people, essentially. They're like, oh, we're gonna have action, we're gonna have romance, we're gonna have comedy, we're gonna have actually deep, meaning behind things eventually, and we're gonna have twists, and it's gonna be dark and edgy, but it's also gonna be funny sometimes. Yeah, it's like they did try to do everything, and the only show I can think of that actually, there's very few shows that can actually do everything. And even if the writers are good enough to do that, it's not something you can usually do consistently, right? Like,
Usually an episodic thing that is able to
like,
do something like that.
yeah, I'd say Avatar: The Last Airbender is obviously the thing that comes to mind right away. That was able to actually be funny, actually be action packed and have really good action and choreography and everything. Actually look good, and even then, the romance was by far the shittiest part of that show. They definitely did not do a good job with it, and they're even the one thing that there's two things that keep that show from being, in my mind, absolutely perfect. One of them was Aang not killing the Fire Lord because he absolutely needed to kill him. The whole point of that last arc was for him to actually have to get over his his morals to do the right thing, and he didn't. He
Well,
found a Deus Ex Machina way out of it.
I can take it or leave it because I definitely see like both sides of the argument.
they gave him a
Yeah,
get out of
fair
jail
enough.
free card,
They
but
gave him a get out of jail free card, and I have a problem with that. It would have been much more powerful if he actually had to kill him. It would have been way more meaningful,
I
much deeper
also
actually, because it would have been more difficult for him.
I
Uh,
think that if had he come up with some way on his own to not kill him rather than
that
getting
would have
the
been fine
super
too.
Buddha
Yes,
powers, then people would have been more fine with it. I think it was the super Buddha powers that made everybody
yes,
not like
yes.
it.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah,
Yep, you're
yeah,
totally right.
that's my
I would have been
problem
fine
with
with
it.
it too. Yep, that's fine too. Either way. But then the other thing is just the romance was never. It was always pretty shitty in the show. So those are really the only two things that keep it from being like perfect, honestly. And everything besides that, it's pretty fucking much perfect almost. Um, and RWBY is, and even then, those guys have not been able to recapture that at all. Like Korra was absolute trash. I don't know if you think Korra is good. Sorry for
I
your
don't.
IQ
I don't.
points. Yeah,
No,
sorry for your
And
IQ
I'm the
points.
only one who matters here.
It's fucking awful. And they just keep trying to rehash the show now. Like it's and again, one of the best TV shows ever, period, animated or live action, and they can't recreate it. And the last show that was like really fucking amazing, I thought was like ultra top tier, was Andor. But Andor doesn't try to be everything. So
I did not watch Andor because I basically don't watch Star Wars stuff anymore. I just don't
Yeah,
want to.
same.
There's no
dude, Andor's so
people say that.
The only new Star Wars content I've watched since Mandalorian season 2 is Star Wars Visions.
Star Wars Visions was decent. I liked it, but God, dude, Andor's fucking top tier. It is fucking incredible. All the other Star Wars stuff, absolutely, you can skip. I'm pretty done with Star Wars as a whole now, especially because Andor. I might still watch some of it casually, but Andor is season 1 and 2 both very much worth watching. So yeah.
But yeah, insofar as uh, whatever it was we were talking about before. Oh,
Oh
right, Ruby.
yeah, RWBY trying to do everything. I was saying I gave an example. I gave an example of something. The closest thing to do that I can think of is Avatar: The Last Airbender, and even they couldn't nail everything. Is my point. And then other shows that are truly great, like The Sopranos. I would say Shogun was really really good. Andor season 1 and 2. They don't try to do everything, and that definitely helps, obviously. Whereas, RWBY does try to do everything and doesn't even never does anything well consistently. And that's kind of the problem. It's just so inconsistent at everything. Nothing is consistently good. Even the choreography and the animation and the fighting isn't always consistent.
I
Like
think it's
nothing
because
about
Yeah.
the shows.
I think it's because they try to do everything in each episode. If they had like more focus for each episode, like if they said, okay, this is going to be a funny episode, we're going to do an episode where it's comedic this episode, and that's what they focused on, maybe then that would work better because that's usually how
That's
most
Well, yeah,
shows do
I've
it.
always been an advocate of RWBY should have been like a Creature of the Week type series. Like you can do
yes,
that and
yes.
still
You've
have an
always said
ongoing
that.
plot. Like Gravity Falls proved this. The really good seasons of Doctor Who, all three of them. There's more than 3 good seasons of Doctor Who.
Even Avatar kind of did that, not to the same degree, but for a while, especially in season 1 and parts of season 2, and even parts of season 3, they definitely have some very episodic things that happen that separate a little bit from that, or sometimes a lot from the main plot. But there's always that overarching thing, and yeah, RWBY doesn't do that.
If RWBY had been like an Odyssey style thing, like where they were traveling around and finding new monsters every so often, but they had a destination still that they were attempting to get to, kind of like how Volume 4 was, pretty much. Just if
Yeah,
they made the whole show, yeah.
Yeah, Volume 4 and Volume 6 leaned in that direction. Like, Volume 6, you had, like, here's the train, here's an episode where they are on a train that gets attacked by manticores. That's the episode. Here's a 2-episode stretch where they are in a haunted house with the Apathy Grim. That's the plot. Here's an episode here's the 3-part finale where they fight a giant mech lady while the bees fight Adam, and a giant Leviathan Grim comes to destroy them all, and RWBY has to use her magic glowy eye powers to stop it. That's the story. In Volume 4, you had that by segregating the plot lines. You had the Blake plot line where she is being really stupid. You have the Yang plot line where she's getting over her PTSD. You have the Weiss plot line where she's, like, trying to fit back in at home, realizing that she can't, and then tries to escape, and then RWBY, or Team Ranger's journey to Mistral that gets interrupted by first the Geist, then Tyrion, then the Nuclavi.
Yeah, and
yeah,
really,
and that is honestly
kind of carried that whole volume. Like the Weiss and Yang and Blake stuff are, the Weiss and Yang stuff are, the Weiss stuff is okay in that volume, but otherwise, like I would say that the main thing that kept that thing afloat was RWBY and the others going through.
Yeah,
it's because the Team Ranger plotline had, like, actual momentum. They were going somewhere, and they were doing things. I think all of Yang's scenes in Volume 4 are spectacular. There's only 4 of them, though.
Yeah. No, they're good. I think the stuff with her was good. I think the stuff with Weiss is good. I think it's Blake brings the volume down. What a shocker.
Yeah.
But I would say, I mean, yeah, you're right about that. 4, 6, and 9, I think, are the best seasons. If I remember correctly, those are the ones that I still think are probably the best ones.
Those are the best written.
They're not perfect. Yeah, they're the best written, which that's the most important thing. When even if your animation is even as inconsistent as RWBY's is, then the writing has to carry the show, actually.
Yeah, a lot of people's complaints with Volume 4 has to do with the animation. I think Volume 4, like, looking back on it, and like I said, I've only rewatched Volume 9 in earnest, but I had the other volumes in the background while I was doing things throughout the past few weeks. Volume 4 is the ugliest looking volume out of the whole bunch. I think there are a lot of moments in Volume 1 that look better than Volume 4. Volume 4, it was the new engine, and there are some scenes that look good, but, like, they could not, like, they didn't get a handle on, like, the lighting or something. Like, RWBY and Jean especially look fucking pasty. They look bright white. They look original cut of the 1920s Nosferatu film white.
Oh, man. Actually, that sounds pretty beautiful to me. I think we could probably keep that aesthetic going forward into new RWBY. Maybe give them blue eyes, too.
Whereas, like, Volume 5, arguably the only good thing about it is the animation quality upgrade.
Nothing?
The upgrade to, like, the character, like, animation. Not the fight animation. Just the little things, like Ilya's blush when she comes out as gay, and Weiss and Yang sitting on the bed together. Little stuff like that looks good. And those are, like, the best scenes of the volume. Or the only good scenes in the volume, depending on who you ask. Which would be me. I am people.
And me. God, Volume 5 was so fucking bad, dude.
And then as far as, like, best looking volumes, I would honestly say Volume 7 and 8 both get a lot of mileage out of their setting, aesthetically. I wish we saw a little bit more of, like, Atlas outside of the military base and academy. We mostly see Mantle, but Mantle is probably, like, the best rendered setting in all of RWBY. Volume 9 also looks good, but Volume 9 is a little hard on the eye sometimes. It's a little too much.
I would agree with that. But again, because to me, RWBY never had the best animation. It's never going to. Like, it's just never been perfect, and so it doesn't bother me too much when the animation isn't perfect, because I'm not watching it expecting that. You know what I mean? It's not like if the Dragon Maid movie, like I watched, the Kobayashi's Dragon Maid movie, that comes out and the animation is shit, which, by the way, people reviewed it. No, obviously it looks amazing. But let's just say that looks like crap. Well, then that would be a significant problem, because Kyoto Animation they're fucking god tier, and their stuff looks amazing, right? So that would, even though, yes, the writing is also better than it is in RWBY, it's also funnier. And it has more meaningful moments despite being a slice of life. But uh, if the if the if the animation was bad, that would be a bigger issue, because that's a big part of the show, right? Versus RWBY, to me, it doesn't bother. Like, I actually, as much as we shit on RWBY, I try not to shit on it too much for its animation, because I know they're doing their best, man. I know I'm not asking for them to be perfect in that sense. So I never judge. I don't even know which volumes look the best, honestly. Because to me, like, it's just the one thing I remember is the switch from Poser to Maya. I remember that. And then other than that, honestly, it's fine.
There's different, like, kind of preconceived standards of quality. Like, people just expect
Yeah, no.
if they're going to the movie theater to see something, they expect a much higher quality product than something that they watch on their computer. Like, RWBY, I would say, like, looks really good for what it is, because, like,
Yeah,
you gotta
I would
look at,
agree
like,
with that.
what not anime, not like other things on TV. You gotta look at, like, what else was online at that time. And
Yeah,
the internet
exactly.
animation space was still very much in the, like, new grounds aesthetic, where everything was just, like, crudely drawn MS Paint art that was barely animated. Like, that's the environment that RWBY came from.
The thing is with RWBY is, I always was fine with the animation never being perfect, because, yeah, I'm judging it based off of that. And also, they fucking nailed the character designs in Volume 1, especially. Like, the characters all look cool as shit. They have unique designs. It shows their personalities. You can kind of guess their personalities just by seeing their outfits and their weapons and stuff like that. It's that is a big part of what made the show work in the beginning, and that allows me to forgive all the animation flaws that are in the show, because it's like, well, at least they look fucking cool, and I know what this character is about based off of what they look like. You can take one look at Nora. You can just look at Nora's character design. She's bubbly, and she is strong as shit because she has a fucking warhammer. And it's correct. Like, you wouldn't even have to know about much about her. You can look at Ren and be like, oh, he's probably like the emo looking guy, and he's probably not actually that strong because his weapons are kind of weak. And that's kind of what he is for the most part, right? He's the silent guy who, actually, if you watch the show, is not that good at fighting. Both of those things are correct. You can get a lot. They get a lot across. Weiss looks prim and proper and hoity-toity.
She's very sharp and angular.
Yes,
Like, a lot of
yes,
sharp
exactly.
angles, like with her
Yeah,
elbows and her shoulders.
very fancy. She's got the fanciest dress. Like, again, you could just show me a picture of her before she speaks a line, and I'd be able to get what her character is like. Jean, same thing. Dude, in his first couple seasons, dude's wearing sneakers and jeans with his armor. That's really
I
good
love
character
it.
design.
I love it.
That's such great character design. That the fact that they get all of that across. Yeah, and Yang, the difference between Yang and RWBY. Like, RWBY, the gothic Lolita, with her scythe,
Constantly
and then
fucking aura farming with Crescent
yeah,
Rose.
yes, constantly aura forming successfully, by the way. And then Yang, totally different. Like, the lighter colors, showing midriff, like shorter clothes. Like, she's definitely bears more skin, but that actually does fit her personality. Brighter colors, like the orange, the yellow, the brown, right? Like, all of, and then she's in your face. She punches shit with her gauntlets. Like, it totally fits her personality. So, obviously, we make fun of the show a lot. I make fun of the show a lot, but I'm gassing and I'm fucking glazing it right now, because that's the kind of stuff they absolutely fucking nailed, and that carried the show.
Judgmental Critter, who is a RWBY tuber who is much more on the art side of things, and I don't agree with her on a lot of her writing points. I don't think a lot of her criticisms of Volume 9 especially are like all that valid, but she has a series of shorts that are phenomenal, where she goes into detail about like pretty much every single character design, like what works and what doesn't work. And there's things that like I kind of subconsciously picked up on that I had never put into words, like the fact that Ruby's cape constantly creates her own backdrop for her silhouette.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Like she is basically a walking silhouetted. That's why like I'm starting to be like she's aura farming, because that's what it is. She's striking these poses. She's using this cape as not a functional thing or even like so much a stylistic thing. She's using it as like a constant red carpet showing like, look at me, I'm a badass, I can do this.
Well, because and fairness, that's Ruby's character. Like Ruby is like, she has Chinibio, but she actually has the ability to back up her Chinibio. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like she's always dreamed of being like the coolest like action hero. I'm gonna save the day and save everybody.
That
That's what
Ruby
my
girl
mom
is
thinks.
really, really cool, and I want to be her friend.
Ruby girl is really, really cool, and I want to be a friend. And that's right. That's actually a line, Volume 1, isn't it?
That
or
is
something
an
like
actual line from
it's
Volume
literally-
1.
Yeah,
That is the scene that I used. I used the image for it in my very first shipping video. The thumbnail for my very first shipping video is from that scene.
See, that's when they were actually funny and they actually succeeded. Because that line fucking made me. I remember how funny the line was now.
All right.
I don't think I've watched that in like 6 years. But the thing is, she actually backs it up. She actually has the ability to back it up until later on, and she gets a little bit over. That's probably what Volume 9 is, but still, it fits for her character, which is good.
I think that's enough of talking about like the old RWBY stuff. I think we should probably get on into like predictions and or desires for the new RWBY.
Yep, good point.
First up for that, have you guys seen the animatic that they released like a year ago?
No.
Oh fuck! I barely remember
I
it.
only just
right
now
when it came
watched it
out.
like last night.
I didn't even know of it.
So it was something that that they had worked on. So apparently, Volume 9 was supposed to have 2 more episodes. One of them is completely lost. It is like lost media until Volume 10 comes out if they decide to repurpose the scenes. But the other episode, what was going to be the finale, I like everything that's in it, including the fact that it's not in Volume 9. Because I think it serves as a much better opening salvo for the potential Volume 10. And Carrie has said that, like, a version of this will be in the first episode of Volume 10.
So what did they do? What was it then?
So, basically, the only thing that they said about, like, the penultimate episodes that, like, Team RWBY and Jean, they return from the Ever After, they see the ships over Vacuo and stuff, and they meet up with Raven. Like, Raven, through her semblance, is able to, like, detect that Yang is back. She goes right to her, and then brings her to Crow. And the whole, like, final episode is a series of monologues by Winter, Crow, Oscar, and I think Nora a little bit as well. Where they are commenting on, like, everything that has happened since Volume 8. Picking up right where Volume 8 left off, with Winter clearing the storm, being like, oh, we were literally 50 feet away from the gates of Vacuo. Nice. So the door plan would have worked even better if not for shitty desert weather. And there's like this refugee crisis, tensions are high because Atlas and Vacuo have bad blood between the two kingdoms over like the exploitation. Whitley and Willow are being like harassed at every turn by the people of Vacuo because they're Shnees. Winter is leading the charge against like the Grim that attack, which is like constant. An airship comes from Vale, basically saying that like after Salem was done with Atlas, she came to Vale and wiped everyone out. Glinda and Ty are both MIA. Oobleck and Port got as many people as they could on the airship and headed to Vacuo, which means that there's like 3 kingdoms worth of refugees in Vacuo. They're armed to the teeth with huntsmen, but it's it's still like really bad. Nora and Ren are like kind of working things out, it seems, or trying to. Oscar and Ozpin are resisting their souls merging, and it's like causing them physical pain. Winter has this big monologue about like how they're the only reason why anybody still has hope is because of Ruby's message at the end of volume, or I guess it was actually like halfway through volume 8 when she relayed her message.
Is this a video?
There's an animatic. It's like
Okay, can you
let
link
me
it
pull
to me
it
so
up.
I can watch it later? Most of that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, Winter basically is like the one thing I don't regret is that you guys aren't here to see like how bad things are. And she even writes like on the memorial to the people who died during the evacuation of Mantle. She writes, "Don't come back." And then that is juxtaposed with Crow being like, "Yeah, things are bad, but I feel like they've never been better. Like I feel like for the first time in years, I feel like there's actual legit hope that we can fight Salem off and win this." And it goes back and forth between the two, like Winter giving into despair, Crow coming around the end of despair, and then Team RWBY jumps in and Nora like hugs John, and it's cute.
Yeah, definitely give me the link to that. That actually sounds mostly pretty good. So hopefully that's what you're basically saying. That's where they're going to try to start Volume 10 off with, essentially.
Possibly, depending upon what it is that they actually decide to do, which, if I remember anything from the 25-second update video that was recently put out, they say they are currently writing something.
Yes.
And that's about it.
Yeah, a lot of people were kind of like pitching about like, oh, what have they been doing the past 2 years? Like, working other jobs. Like they gotta put food on the table. Like RWBY ain't paying the bills right now.
Yeah, they probably weren't actually working on RWBY.
Yeah, like
much. If any.
Yeah, we don't know what they're doing, but they clearly were probably having to do other jobs. Yeah.
Like Miles, he actually dipped out of Rooster Teeth, I think, while Volume 9 was coming out, and he's been working on video games.
How's that been working out for him?
Which I think fits his skill set a lot better. Like I can see Miles writing the shit out of some flavor text.
I'm wondering what games he's worked on now.
Let me look this. Let me do the old Google.
Well, while he does that, dude, what's your hopes and or expectations for the upcoming volume? Like, what do you want to see happen, and what do you think's actually going to?
Well, I like the idea of Bale getting attacked and getting kind of owned. Because I think if I remember correctly, what I was saying is I wanted the heroes to lose hard. They hadn't lost since like really lost since Volume 3, right? I need some stakes. I need some desperation.
I'd say they lost pretty hard in Volume 8.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But sorry. So I was saying, sorry, I meant to clarify. That's what I was saying at the end of Volume 7 or during Volume 8 was when Volume 9 is like totally separate because Volume 9 is like in that own like separate universe, right? So that's what I had been wanting for a long time in the show because I felt like the stakes weren't really high enough because it felt like since the end of Volume 3 that things were just kind of going along. And it felt like, honestly, I think it seemed too easy for them. It didn't seem like Salem was that much of a threat, honestly. It didn't really feel like that to me. So I'm glad that Volume 8 ended as bad as it did. That was something I liked a lot about Volume 8. And I'm glad to see that I hope that's what they end up doing. That seems like that's the general direction they're going to go in anyways, because even if they don't keep everything exactly the same from this animatic that the media's talking about, I highly doubt they're going to drastically change that. So it sounds like things are going to be extra shitty, which is good. That's what I want. I would assume that this next volume or two will be the last ones. I can't see them going. I would be shocked if they went beyond the volume of 11.
Even before Rooster Teeth started falling on hard times, they were I believe they were always saying that like we're shooting for 10 volumes. Like
Yeah, I
they
think
were saying
10's
that
going to
like as
be the
early as
last
volume
one.
3. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be the last one, but I think I give it like 3 volumes top.
Yeah, actually, no, you're right, because somebody just picked it up, so I doubt anybody's going to pick it up for only one volume. I would imagine we're going to get 2 to 3. Yeah.
I would say
So
they would
now I would
probably
expect it
at
to be
least.
2 more. I'd expect 2 more. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I would say they need at least 2, because
Yeah.
I here's what I'm thinking, just as really broad strokes for what they need to do with the volumes. Second to last volume needs to be volume where we actually figure out how to kill Salem, and last volume needs to be volume where we actually kill Salem. Like,
I think partly yes, although I would say, and with this show, considering how long we've been invested with how many characters there are, they're going to need a lot of epilogue.
yeah,
I
well,
want a lot of
they
epilogue
can
for this
wrap
show.
everything else up, but in terms of like the main plot, these are the not knowing how to do anything about Salem part of it is that's been like a really bad critique for it for a long time. Like,
Well, a good critique, right? But like a big problem. Is that what you mean?
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Yes, I agree. That was kind of part of the issue. Is like honestly, Salem wasn't as well addressed as she should have been for a long time, and now clearly she
I feel like they
is front
missed
and
an
center.
opportunity to do that in Volume 9, actually. Like, this is like the origin tree of the entire universe, and it can't also be like, oh, yeah, and here, by the way, this is some Salem kryptonite that you can go get. This is how you do that.
This is an issue I kind of had with Volume 6, but I had a much bigger issue with it as it kept on getting reiterated in Volume 7 and 8, which is that, like, why is Ruby the only one who realizes that you can stop Salem without killing her? Why is she the only one who, like, openly acknowledges that, like, Salem has basically been BTFO'd for, like, 7,000 years straight? And it is only like just now gaining any kind of momentum. Like I can totally see a version of like a volume where it does wrap up in volume 10, where they like use the Relic of Destruction and Ruby Silver Eyes together with the Relic of Choice to just eradicate Salem's forces, and they're like, you're basically an incarnation of systemic problems that we just can't deal with. We just don't like. There's no solution to human error. There is no like salvation for like original sin. That's basically what you are. So like we can still make the world a better place without needing to kill you.
Well, I think that that would sort of if you're talking about that, then they would essentially have to basically go back to how things are implied to have worked in Volume 1, in that there is a sort of secret Merovingian society of evil fighters under a reincarnating wizard that goes about dealing with all of Salem's stuff and never telling the populace about it. They would essentially just
I do
think
think
that.
they will end up doing something a little more fine. What's the word I'm looking for? Finality. Like I do think they will pull the Chekhov's gun on the relics, getting all 4 relics together and summoning the gods to Deus Ex fucking solve all their problems.
I think that's really what they've kind of did with the relics by putting them there. Like, that's sort of the general idea. Even though I I forget, didn't they explain to Ruby and the gang that if the relics all got brought together, the gods would have to judge humanity and
Yes.
find
Yep.
them?
That was part of the what Jin showed them.
Yeah, so well, in terms of like as a Chekhov's gun, you will have to put the relics all together, or you know, I don't. Otherwise, it would be kind of lacking if they didn't bring the gods back for some reason or somehow skirted around that. But uh, they could do that. This is RWBY.
Yeah. I would like it if they figure everything out themselves and they say, fuck the gods, let's just, be atheist pilled. And I'm not an atheist, by the way, but I just feel like in this show, it would be cool if they just did it themselves. But in terms of expectations, I expect them to get the relics together. They're gonna, have to plead to the god. The gods are gonna say, like, "Oh, well, this is fucked. We're gonna kill all of this, like we said we would." And something, God, I hope it's RWBY, but it might be Osktard that says something that like shows. But look at all these people coming together to do this thing. Clearly,
Yeah,
we're
give them the Naruto treatment.
yes,
Let
power
them
of friendship,
walk
whatever the fuck,
into the.
and that's what's gonna save the day, right? That's what I'm expecting. I won't love that. I'll hate it slightly less if RWBY's the one that delivers the speech. If it's anybody but her, especially if it's Oscar, I'm gonna fucking
Oh, you
punch
know what would
something.
be even worse is if like she was doing it, but Oscar also chimes in sometimes.
Oh god, that would be so much worse. Like he interrupts her. She starts talking, and
Starts
then
mansplaining friendship to
he starts
RWBY.
mansplaining, and then the worst thing is then instead of getting mad, she'll smile at him. Oh god, no.
Oh
Oh god.
god, I hate
She's
that
like,
shit.
You can see it. You can see it happening right now, can't you?
They finish each other's
Oh,
sentences, which is gross.
yeah,
they
disgusting. They finish each
harmonize.
other's sandwiches. Oh my god, no.
Yeah.
Um, I would hate that. Also, please fucking fix Renora, you fucking bastards.
Well,
Have
they're kind
them
of gonna
have
have to do
many
that.
children.
Like,
They need to have a kid. They should have had a kid already. I said that forever. Dude, people have kids so young in that universe. It's fucking
Oh
canon
yeah.
to the fucking universe, okay?
They have
really,
They
to.
should have
Their
been.
population would absolutely plummet worse than Japan's if they weren't constantly fucking like rabid.
Yeah, they should have been married and fucked out of the show 3 seasons ago. I've been saying that forever. I
I
like
mean,
them, but they don't need that many characters, okay? Um, they just deserve their happy ending. They had such a great God, Volume 4, they were so good in Volume 4. They were my favorite part of the show in Volume 4. Do you guys remember Volume 4? How good their character background was?
Oh yeah.
And
oh,
how well set up they
so
were for like the most amazing childhood friend romance development of all time. And then they just got fucked in the ass by I swear it was the new writers. I would bet money it was one of the new writers came in and is the
I
reason
don't
why Nora
necessarily.
also not even just that, literally assassinating Nora's character. Because Nora on her own, even without Ren, probably just her and RWBY, my favorite characters in the show. And Weiss. Those have been my top three. Those are my top three.
I love deceptively emotionally intelligent Nora.
Yes, yes. But like the thing is that one of the things like that's why I don't really mind Weiss having. Again, they could have done it better and spread it out a little more. But honestly, I don't mind it because Weiss has the best character arc of any character in the story so far,
Yeah.
and it was generally done well by the standards of the show. So I don't mind it. So she's one of my top two characters, and Nora is my third favorite character on her own. They haven't assassinated RWBY yet, thank God. So I
Yeah.
still like her and Weiss.
I mean, RWBY tried
When
assassinating RWBY, but that's a completely different can of worms.
that was my favorite part of the volume, actually. I like seeing RWBY
Mine
finally win.
too. I love RWBY's
It's the
crash out.
best.
Like it is so
Yeah,
fucking
RWBY
good.
Crash Out was fucking amazing. But no, okay, real quick. Let me just finish with Nora. Let me finish with Nora real quick because the thing, and then we can talk about RWBY because that's more relevant right now. But I do. You talked about what I want. I need that relationship fixed because it was a big deal to me personally, and it was the one. It was the most consistent romance they had going the whole fucking show. They leaned into it. They teased us with it the whole time. You saw Ruby Chidi. They fucking teased like the first line. Well, the third. I think it's the third line Nora says is hinting that she's in love with him. We're not. Oh, we're not together. Together. That is literally every anime
Like, not that I don't
is
think you're not handsome.
attractive.
She says
Yeah,
something like
it's
that.
literally every single anime, manga, visual novel, light novel. That is the secretly "I'm in love with you since we were kids" line. Okay, so clearly they knew what they were doing, and then all of a sudden, after 8 volumes, 7.5 volumes, she just decides and by the way, she already went through her character arc. Okay, that was the backstory in Volume 4. So again, even without the relationship, they assassinated her character because she is a confident person. She has never been, because the her crash out was like, oh, all I'm good for is just smashing things. The fuck is that bullshit? She has never just been that character ever. Where the fuck does that
I
come
can
from?
see Nora having like getting self conscious about that, but like I said, like I loved it when Nora was like deceptively emotionally intelligent. Like the whole like practice what you preach, Pyrrha. The fact that
Yep.
she said like not together the way she does is because she's doing that for Ren's benefit, because Ren was not ready for that
Yep.
until after Volume 4. And like Ren is so frustrating right now where he is,
Oh yeah, no,
because
he's also fucked too.
I like that he is the one who's like, we should just be leaving these decisions up to Ironwood. We're too young, we're too inexperienced, we don't know what we're doing, we're not ready for this. And that would be an arc that would be a lot better and make a lot more sense if every single professional huntsman we had seen since Volume 1 wasn't a complete fucking retard.
Yeah.
Like,
And
seriously,
if that was what caused the rift between Ren and Nora, I would be more okay with it, because that is something where he is straight up being a fuck. I mean, I don't like that he's being that stupid. I don't see that as part of his character. It also doesn't make sense to me. So they're assassinating two characters and their relationship. But okay, let's just say they do that, and then Nora gets mad at him for that. Okay, fair enough. That's fine. Her crash out is completely unwarranted. It makes no sense. It came out of nowhere. It does not fit her character at all. That's the thing that pissed me off even more than tanking the relationship, was like, this is not normal. That's not her character at all.
I think
And also, this is not really Ren's character, but
like that thought she has shouldn't last more than a day, because like
yes, exactly.
she's seeing herself as like completely defined by her relationship with Rand, and I'm just like, Jean's literally right there. He's almost as important to you as Ren is. The memory of Pyrrha should be just as important as Jean is. You spend 6 to 8 months with Ruby as your leader, and we get moments with them together throughout volume. We actually get a surprising amount of moments with them together in volume 7 and 8. But like, none of that factors in, and I feel like it should, and I feel like Nora, as she was written in earlier volumes, would have acknowledged that a lot more. Like she would have come to Ruby with her issue, and here's the thing, that could have made Ruby's future developments in Volume 9 a lot tighter, because it's not just her team that's relying on her. It's also Jean and his team. Like, that's just adding to her burden and adding to, like, the fuel for her crash out. And that would even give her a much more legitimate reason to lash out at Jean. Now, granted, like, nothing Ruby says is, like, super legitimate. Like, that's the whole point. It's a crash out. She's having a mental fucking breakdown. Nothing's rational about it. But, like, it would give her more interesting thing. And everything she says is already interesting. It's a fantastic monologue. But it would add even more fuel directed towards Jean. Being like, I'm here like trying to support and do all this for my team and getting them together, yada, yada. We're all so happy for you, but like you failed Ren and Nora, like they should be happy, like they should be more comfortable with themselves and where they're at, but like you weren't able to do that. I had to, yada yada yada. Like, there's so much good shit that they could have gotten out of that if, like, drama stuff, like heartache, pain, like almost edgy stuff that they could have done if they just committed to the bit with Ren and Nora.
I think the thing of it is that they kind of they do want to sort of keep them in the show, and to keep them in the show, they have to kind of justify to themselves that, you know, they are kind of worth keeping there, and they didn't really have anything going on with them, so they had to sort of artificially give them something to go on with them,
Yeah,
basically.
which is the worst. You're right, and that's the worst thing you can do as a writer, though, is do bullshit like that. That's the thing that, I mean, when people complain about, romance anime or manga just dragging shit on for too long, or won't they relationships in American sitcoms, which are just fucking awful most of the time, right?
I
That's the
like
kind of thing that
cheers.
makes people hate that shit. Is just creating false drama that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
Pisses me the fuck off.
the thing is, it's such an easy thing to circumnavigate because like if you have a character who's already gone through their big initial character arc and you want to give them something to do, have them become a guide for other characters. This is what One Piece does all the time. Luffy has not had an actual character arc since the time skip, but every single arc is him interacting with someone and getting them to a place where they can like fight for their dreams and liberate themselves from whatever shackles are holding them down. He does it with Shirahoshi and Fishman Island. He does it with Law Across Punk Hazard and Dressrosa. He does it with Sanji and Katakuri in Whole Cake Island. He does it with Momonosuke and Yamato throughout Wano. Bonnie on Egghead. He's doing it right now with Loki and Elbaf. That's the key to the character.
Well, you could also the other thing with Red and Nora. So yeah, so something like that would work. But then also you can find drama with them even if you get them together. Because hello, have a kid. How the fuck are they supposed to function like that? That would be dramatic and fucking scary as shit. Then
Yeah.
that's something new. That's
Well,
something new that they'd both be scared shitless of.
Especially
Oh
with
shit,
like the
Nora's
existential
pregnant.
threat of Salem. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
if
Nora's pregnant and we're stuck out here. Holy shit, we are so fucked. Nora's definitely fucked. But we are collectively now, the three of us, the three of us are collectively fucked now. How do we deal with this? Ren, how do I protect her? Nora would probably still want to kind of be fighting, probably. And how do they deal with that? That would be so interesting.
I mean, there's a variety of things to do. If you didn't, I, as far as like the pacing of it, I'm not sure that they'd have enough time for like the pregnancy and having
No,
the
but if
kid
they
to.
started, okay, here's the thing. Don't forget, this is the other thing that pisses me off about their character and relationship assassination. Nora kissed Ren in whatever
Uh,
was it, Volume 7 or Volume
It was
8? When did
7.
she kiss?
That was that was
It was
7.
all the way back in Volume 7. For fuck's sake, that's the other reason why her crash out makes absolutely no sense, right? Okay, so stupid because they literally just fucking kissed, and she kissed him. Okay, so they could have gotten them together then, and they could have started this shit already. They could have been pregnant in Volume 8. That's that, and then they'd have time. That's kind of my point. Is then they would have had time to do this stuff. They should have started doing that stuff earlier because if they had done that, they wouldn't have felt the need to do this stupid bullshit Nora crash out arc that pisses me the fuck off. Because and part of the reason I'm complaining about this is if you think of the 8 main characters, right now 7 because um, Pierre's been dead since Volume 3, and Oscar doesn't count because he fucking sucks. So there's 7 main characters, right? Weiss has already gone through her character arc. She's kind of on the side now. Um, Bumblebee is happened. I'm fine that it happened because those characters haven't been well written in a minute, and Blake is at least less terrible than she used to be. Ruby's still a great character. Ren and Nora were like honestly consistently at least pretty decent characters, I guess is my point. Like, and they are main characters technically, so it does matter how they handle this. I've already complained about all the other characters or complimented the other characters that I really like, and so this is like the thing that's pissing me off right now. Because on a positive note, yeah, Ruby's crash out, and John's crash out, both fucking fantastic in volume to now compliment the show. God, the show needed stuff like that so badly. I feel like Jean losing his shit.
There's also a series of animated shorts. I have not watched these, and I was gonna just kind of breeze by mention them, and we could like save that for another time because I have not actually watched these. They're like little animated shorts. I think they're called like RWBY and Beyond or something. But like, I heard mixed things. But I heard that like one of the shorts takes place after Volume 9, and it's Jean actually like kind of like hanging out with Oscar about his whole time displacement thing. Because like with what he went through in the Ever After, living all those indeterminate years and decades, slowly like withering and rusting away, and then suddenly getting his youth back and he can no longer like relate to his team. He's having a hard time like kind of reconciling with them, because for them it's been like a few months, but for him it's been literal lifetimes. And Oscar/Ozpin is the only one he can think of who can actually like relate to that experience. It's like, oh my god, that's actually an interesting thing to do with Oscar.
Yes, actually, yes, that would make
Hallelujah.
him actually. Yeah, I know, right? That would be fantastic. I still hate that his character exists, but that would be a great use of him. And
There's just so many
I
better
really,
ways they could have reincorporated Ozpin into the show.
yes, exactly. Also, Ozpin didn't need to be reincorporated. I understand with their backstory why they think he needs to be, but that's not the back. The here's the thing: the base concept of RWBY is fantastically interesting and really awesome, actually. Like just like
Yeah,
the
you don't even
Huntsman,
really need a
Huntress,
Salem.
Grim.
Like, you don't even really
Yes, you don't
need a
need
Salem
you don't need a
to
Salem. No, you
make
don't.
it cool.
No, you just but the Huntsman, Huntresses, cool weapons that don't actually make sense. Who gives a shit? Anime logic. That kind of the dust, the semblances, the academies to fight Grim. Fucking cool as shit. And then all the other stuff that tries to make the show deeper than that is fucking terrible. All of it. All of it is awful. The maidens, fucking stupid. The 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 origin story of Salem and Ozpin, fucking stupid. So
The
terrible.
all the World of Remnants, as well as the
Yeah,
RWBY Fairy Tales shorts that
yeah.
they did.
Awful. Absolutely fucking awful.
I have not
And this
talked
is what
about
I
those
was
before.
talking about.
I think those came out like, I want to say they came out around the same time as Volume 9. The RWBY Fairy Tales things, and I did not acknowledge them because the first one I watched was the one about the origins of the Fallen. So I was like, well, that is fucking retarded. I am not
Yep.
acknowledging that as canon.
Yep. All of that's so this is what I talk about when I say like Ruby swinging for the fences and just completely missing. This is what I'm talking about. Is that kind of stuff? Is like why? Why are you doing like this? You're trying to make the show deeper, and you're just making it dumber and more confusing. And you don't need to do that. Same thing with like you're trying to make Nora a more complex character, and you're failing so fucking hard at that. You're not making her a more complex character. She was fine the way she was. If you were seriously great writers, then yeah, you could maybe have done some other stuff. But you would have planned that shit from the beginning. You wouldn't have tried to add it in volume 8 of your show. Then that's the kind of stuff that pisses me off. But then sometimes they fucking nail it. Like again, Jean's crash out, fucking fantastic. The idea of even having him show up so much earlier, that's kind of brilliant. I'll give them credit to that. I would not have thought of it. That like him falling like a second or minute earlier would have caused that much of a difference in time and
Well,
everything that happened to him
yeah,
because
I
of
mean,
that.
he
How
fell
he was already,
afterwards, but he
but
kind of
but the thing is,
it's a little confusing with Crescent, with him following Crescent Rose. But the
yeah,
thing
but
is, like, he finds the
fine, we
time
can get
point that
over
just
that
throws him back.
because it serves his character though. Like I'm fine with overlooking some dumb stuff and some plot convenience if it serves the character well, right? With Nora, it doesn't. With Jean, it absolutely does. Jean was already kind of teetering. He was always imposter syndrome, right? He always was never the best fighter. So it totally makes sense. He never could control things the way he wanted to because he was never good enough. He faked his way into the academy, right? So it totally makes sense for him to latch on to these fucking paper people and fucking obsess over them for probably decades because that's the one thing he was really able to do and control. And when he lost that, then he fucking snaps and has a fucking breakdown. He fucking earned that shit. He even if he's wrong or he's being mean or to the girls, whatever. But his character in terms of writing.
And he's mature enough to be aware of that in a way that, like, Ruby clearly isn't. Like, Ruby just continues to wallow in self-pity after her initial crash out and continue, which I think this is the what defines a true crash out. What a true like, people will be like, oh, this is a great crash out, it's just a rant, or just like someone snapping once. Like, no, what makes a crash out a real crash out is the chance to turn back and stop, but then they just keep going. Ruby crashes out. Jean has a rant. And Jean even acknowledged, like, I know I'm not right, but you don't understand. Like, I've been alone for so long, and that way on that bridge with Penny, I was the only one who can do it. I was the only one, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life, no matter where I'm at. Whether I'm here in the Ever After or back home on Remnant, I have to live with the fact that I killed Penny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he lost everybody. And then he gets them back, thinks he's like showing them something that he can do, and he can't even do that. And so yeah, his rant is warranted. And even Ruby's is warranted in a way. Like it serves her character well, actually. Because first of all, she's never actually really broken down before. Not really. And everything she's gone through recently, always trying to be the leader. She's the youngest one. They always relied on her. And she actually didn't do a great job recently. And so that's actually hitting her. So it makes sense for her to actually crash out the way she did. I think her character needed that. So I'm not, against the show doing stuff like that. It's just that 2 out of the 3 that they did recently were fantastic and actually served the characters, and one of them assassinated a character. So I hope they fix that. I hope Ruby. The last 2 things I'll say is I really hope that they do continue. Like Jean and Ruby are not completely over these things that they went through. I'm sure with Jean, he's not going to be, especially because what you've already said about that idea of him talking to Oscar. That would actually be a pretty good way to use him. But also, he was there for so long. Clearly, that's going to have an effect on him anyway. So I hope we see that. And then Ruby, my biggest problem with Volume 9 personally is that at the end, they made it seem like she did kind of get over it a bit too easily. I hope that isn't the case. I hope that stays with her to a degree and helps her mature a little bit more. That's what I
Helps
would like.
her and her team mature. This actually gets into my biggest hope for the series going forward. And it addresses a complaint I've had for the past several volumes, as well as what I like about Volume 9, and also helps me address the way that people who shit on Volume 9 are objectively wrong about RWBY. So, as a character.
So can you also tell me, while you're talking about this, what is it that people don't like about Volume 9? Because they're wrong if they think it's bad. It's one of the best volumes.
There's a lot of little things, and some of it's fair criticisms that I've also addressed, like turning Weiss into a gag character, or the slow start, like it has a really abysmally slow start. Some of the fairy tale stuff in the Ever After is kind of annoying. But a lot of people hate the tea drinking, and they are objectively wrong. RWBY did not commit suicide. As much as I like to joke about, as much as I literally made a little AMV to Bo Burnham's "Kill Yourself" when that happened. Kill yourself.
Oh god, I miss Bo Burnham. I mean, and also just on point. Speaking of mental health issues, I mean that's why Bo Burnham hasn't come back.
Yeah, he's got anxiety.
Yeah,
So
I hope he. I'd love to see him back, man. I hope he's happy.
did not
She doesn't
ever
commit
fully.
suicide.
She did not ever fully believe that she was going to die. She
She just
believed
took a way out.
that the version of her that existed was not good enough. That she was just going to continue letting her friends down, that she was going to continue to leave places in ruin. This gets emphasized numerous times when she talks a little like, I promised to protect the people of Atlas as a huntress, I promised to be there for my friends, I promised to be there for my teammates and my family, and I failed time and time again, and nothing I do is good enough. Because there is no beating Salem. And so she never intended to be fully erased from existence. She wanted to get rid of her memories and become the person that her team and family and friends and the world needed her to be. And the revelation she kind of has with, looking into some of her mother's memories is that, like, there is no such thing as good enough. There is no such thing as perfect. Like, that is, she'd just be running around in circles. Like, and I pointed this out in my review for Volume 9. the tree gives her all these options to reincarnate. Every single one of them is a weapon. No matter who she wants to be, or no matter what is going on in Ruby's head, no matter how low of a point she's at, she still has the heart of a hero, of a warrior, of someone who is going to fight in this fight, regardless of the circumstances. She is going to fight and fight and fight for the rest of her life, and she was planning on doing that before she found out Salem was immortal. Like, the Grimm are already an endless threat. Like, people have already kind of, like, adapted and just come to terms with the fact that, like, they're never going to completely eradicate the Grimm. That's why I'm like, that's another reason why I'm like, kind of, I mean, like, I don't think it's actually that big of a deal for Salem to be unkillable, because, like, it just makes her a singular embodiment of what the Grimm already are. And so she chooses to accept herself and to love herself, and that she is enough, because if there's no such thing as good enough, then everybody's good enough, and vice versa, you know.
It's sort of the whole thing of, like, you know, your mom saying everybody's special, which is the same thing as saying nobody is.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's okay. And that's okay. But when you're a kid, it's like, you know, it's like, you never hear like the arcs that people go through, where it's like you're a kid and you're like, your mom says everybody's special, so you listen to that, right? And then you get a little bit older, you get edgier, and you're like, you reply with, well, that's the same thing as saying nobody is. And then you get even older, and then you realize, well, actually, that's also okay, right? And I think that's kind of what Ruby had to go through, essentially.
Being more powerful and being like more of a badass would have helped in Volume 8. The main problem with Ruby's plan in Volume 8 is that they're not ready for Cinder. They're just not on that level yet.
Yeah.
They weren't even ready for Neo.
No, it's true.
Ruby is the only one out of that whole, like, 8-man squad they got who could, like, do damage to Cinder, and it's only because she cheats. Her silver eyes are basically a cheat code against Cinder. And that's what Neo is for. Like, Neo is way better of a fighter than Ruby, and she ties Ruby up and focuses on her, while Cinder beats the ever-loving fuck out of everyone else in that room. Like, that's the only real problem with Ruby's plan of Volume 8, and I've heard tons and tons of complaints like, oh, why did they just do this, or why did they just do that? It doesn't matter, because Cinder used the Relic of Knowledge. No matter what plan they came up with, Watts was going to find a counterplay. I don't understand how people still don't get that. The
whole point was there was no chance that they were never going to win.
Yeah, Ruby could have maybe come up with a better plan, but then Watts would have just had to be even more competent, which he already is.
Which he already is. Yeah, it's already
person in Salem's Consortium. May he rest in hell in peace. I'm gonna miss him.
He was fun.
I already do.
Well, he was kind of. I hope they don't have too much evil character dialogue things that go on, because he was one of the better foils for those guys. Him and Mercury kind of sort of held that dynamic together, I would say. And so
it's basically just Mercury and Tyrion now, and Cinder.
Yeah, and I don't really. I'm not so sure Mercury can hold it up that particular three-legged chair up all on his own. Like,
I don't think so. No.
Like, his only interesting dynamic really is with Emerald.
Yeah,
and she's playing for the good guys now.
Yeah, his whole deal was kind of to undercut her a lot, and without her, which it was a good deal for him. I think that was a good usage of him, but otherwise, he also didn't do much else other than that for a very long time.
I think he could be a very interesting foil for Yang, which is obviously what they want, or what they wanted early on. Like, they definitely built up that rivalry in the openings, and then just never did anything with it.
I don't think they're going to. do anything with it now. I think that
Yeah, like
that's
the fact that like, oh, Yang just wants to be wrapped up in these adventures, and Mercury joined the villains on a whim. Like that's an interesting hero villain dynamic that you could do something with, in the same way that they did something somewhat interesting with like Blake and Adam, or that they're kind of doing interesting stuff with Ruby and Cinder. Weiss and Emerald were supposed to be like that too, according to the openings and according to like some early series speculation, but then like a lot of things that also just never went anywhere. They never ended up fighting. They fought in 2 volume openings, but did not ever fight in across any of the 8 volumes that they're in together.
I was kind of like, I mean, they're whenever they would meet, though, it would kind of always be in a fighty circumstance in the first place, like unless like they did some kind of thing where they were trapped somewhere. So I don't think that there's really a whole lot to get out of that. The only time that uh, they would be together would be in an action sort of arena.
Yeah,
I feel like
I also think that like the only potential thing that would have been there is the whole like, oh, Emerald grew up on the streets, dirt poor, stealing to make a living, while Weiss was a pampered princess.
also stealing to make a living.
Yeah, by the time Emerald even reveals to the team that she is a villain, it's the end of Volume 3, and Weiss has already been cut off from her dad's credit card. So it's like, even if they would have ended up fighting in Volume 3, it's not, there's nothing there, really. It's like a pairing the spares, but for a team fight.
Yeah, at that point, it had to be like, Weiss would be like, yeah, but I don't have my dad's money anymore. She's like, yeah, but you grew up with that. It's like, okay, now we're just splitting hairs at this point. You might be right. Yes, your upbringing was awful, but also kind of so was mine, just in a different way. Even if yours is worse, Emerald. You know what I mean? They're just qualifying so much at that point. Who cares, right? At that point. So yeah, it
If I
doesn't
were
work
to
the
if
same
I
way.
were to write a dynamic between them, it would go a different way. You know, Emerald would brag about how great of a thief she is, and Weiss would take the small piece of tape off the last part of her name and see that it reads Schneeberg, and she'd say, "You don't know what you're talking about, little girl."
God damn it, Coop. But so my biggest hope for Volume 10 is Team RWBY being more supportive of Ruby, especially Yang. One of my biggest complaints in the last couple volumes is that Yang doesn't feel like Ruby's sister. She is just so up Blake's ass throughout volume 7, 8, and 9 that like she should be feeling pretty fucking responsible for Ruby's crash out. Way more than she like lets on.
I think the team dynamic thing in general between like all of the RWBY team members is that like they sort of over focus on certain pairs interplay uh, with each other, and so it doesn't have like that sort of webbed mesh framework between them.
This is another benefit of having like a creature of the week type series is you can group up different characters. Like an idea I had earlier in this podcast that I just didn't say because the conversation was flowing in a different direction. Something that they could have done anytime in volume 7 or 8 is have Weiss and Blake pair up and be the ones to like give Whitley his character arc. Like have them come together to like make Whitley a better person and inspire him and talk to him, you know, have Blake befriend him and make him realize that like Faunus are nice and that Weiss still cares about him, and have Blake be the one to talk to Whitley about everything that Weiss has gone through since she first left for Beacon. There's a lot there. I think Weiss and Blake especially get such the short end of the stick because there's so much narrative potential and there's so much that was set up in volume 1 that they just never ended up really doing anything with. They never had Weiss and Blake team up at all throughout the entire Atlas saga, even though that was like ripe for exploitation. Instead, they had Weiss mostly on her own and Blake up Yang's ass. Like, Yang has no connection to anything going on in Atlas. Blake, Weiss, and RWBY do. Blake has the whole, like, faunus exploitation stuff. Weiss has the SDC's part in that. And RWBY has a really interesting parallel with Ironwood, where she kind of becomes a secondary Ozpin for him, and she truly believes in his plan, and he truly believes that she is what every huntress should strive to be, and they get along so well throughout most of Volume 7, but then just that one inconsolable difference is what ends up tearing them apart. RWBY is not willing to sacrifice Mantle, Ironwood is, and that's where their conflict actually starts by the end of Volume 7. So, like, RWBY has interesting things going on in Volume 7 and 8. Yang doesn't.
Well, I think with the Yang is that kind of in a similar way with Weiss, they sort of threw away her whole deal a little too early. Like, her whole thing was wanting to find her mom, and then she found her, and that was pretty much it. They didn't really do anything with that.
Yeah, she just calls Raven a coward and a bitch and then never mentions her again.
I think a cooler thing to do with that would have been, if they wanted to pad that out, would have probably been to have had Raven be a more kind of seductive way of life for Yang, which would have been pretty easy, actually.
Again, I feel like they wanted to do that. I feel like they were wanting to set that up as early as Volume 2 with, again, Yang's speech about what her motivation is, getting wrapped up in crazy adventures. What's crazier than being a literal fucking bandit?
And you got your mom there. She's saying, like, look, your dad actually fucked me out of taking you with me or something like that.
Yeah, like,
having it set up the way they had
like,
it,
I can't believe they never did that. I can't believe that Raven never said, like, I always wanted you here. Like, she pays lip service to it, like, oh, this is where you belong, you know, now that you're here, you can join us. It's like,
they had a weird culture where, like, family dynamics don't matter in bandit worlds, which is dumb. That's not how bandits have ever worked anywhere.
But then they say they act one way, but then talk the opposite. Just another example of Volume 5 just being shitty, terribly written.
Well, I mean, it was really, that was probably one of the worst ones, because they had it set up that this is the thing that she really wants to do this whole time, and then when she actually accomplishes the goal, it falls flat as hell, like, deliberately. I don't know what they were thinking with that exactly, but like I said, they kind of they shot their load too early on that one. They resolved the whole thing even when they could have very easily come up with a dynamic that would have been able to pad it out for a lot longer time. They didn't have to immediately fix it up right there.
That's true, but I will still at least say, again, we're judging it by the standards of this show, right? Which has never been perfect.
Had they padded it out longer, far more problems with it probably would have arisen. Yes,
exactly, and that's the thing, is I just don't trust the writers of the show to have done a good job with her, because at this point, how many good, well-written characters do we still have at this point in the show? We've got RWBY, got Jean, got Weiss, who hasn't had anything to do for like several volumes now, at least 2 or 3 volumes at least, I think, and that's kind of it at this point, right? Who else do we have? That's because now they killed Nora's character, they killed Ren's character. Yang has been terrible for a long time. Blake, I don't think has ever been well written in the show, like ever. So that's why I don't complain about like Weiss, Blake, and Yang, because like I said, Weiss is still one of my favorite characters, because yes, they shot their shot too soon with her, but at least they did a decent job with her when they did. RWBY has just been consistently who she is the whole time throughout the show. Finally got her justifiable crash out moment, which thank God they didn't screw that up. They kind of did, like I said, it's a little too easy, but hopefully if they can save it in the next volume if they reference back to it, you know, and Yang actually becomes a sister to her and that kind of stuff, and then they can fix. Then I'll be fine with it. But like Yang hasn't been a good character in forever. I'm done complaining about her. I'm done complaining about Blake. I used to complain about Blake constantly. I'll still talk shit about Oscar just because he's not a day one character and his idea of his concept was so fucking stupid. And he was one of the invention of his character was the worst part of the worst volume of the show. So I'll still jokingly, well, not semi-jokingly complain about him, but I'm done complaining about Blake. I'm done complaining about Yang. They haven't been good characters either in years or never, right? And at least she was good. At least Weiss was good.
Yeah, there is potential for Yang.
Yes, there's potential for Yang. I think Blake has never been good. Blake has always been the worst character. Blake's always been terrible.
Yeah, well, and now that we know that like Raven's coming back into the fold, and with what happened with RWBY and what she saw, the fact that Raven was there on Summer's last mission and probably saw what happened to her, like there's potential for like Yang to have a better understanding of what Raven is actually like beneath the bravado and come to a better understanding of Raven that then influences her own character arc with RWBY and possibly even Blake.
That would be nice. I don't expect it, but that boy would that be nice.
I don't either, but like the potential is there, and I've always kind of felt this. And actually, it was Monty Oum said this as early as Volume 1, that like Yang is the hardest character for him to write because it's the one that is like the furthest removed from him. It's the one that like he doesn't understand because he doesn't fully understand those types of people. I kind of do, and that's why in my fanfiction series or beyond, I had Yang be in the series a lot more than pretty much anybody else in Team RWBY. I got a lot of mileage out of her character, having her go from this like the tough big sister of the group to having this like tension with RWBY over like, you know, Yang identified herself as RWBY's bodyguard from such an early age, and as RWBY surpasses her in power, it makes her like gives her anxieties about that like RWBY doesn't need her anymore, is tearing her up inside, and RWBY is on an ego trip in that arc. It's awesome. It's my favorite bit of RWBY on. But then have her go from that to like, you know, go from hating her mom to like actually working with her mom and understanding that her mom has like noble intentions and stuff like that. RWBY on was written pre-Volume 4. Raven was not a bandit. She was something else entirely. And then, like, as RWBY on Generations roll around, have her become, like, more of an Uncle Crow to the kids and be there with them every step of the way of their journey as Weiss and Blake and even RWBY kind of fade into the background, fade into legend. Yang is still there, actively participating in all these big fights. And I got a lot of mileage out of her, a lot more than what has been done with her in the actual series, and I do think a lot of it stems from them just not really knowing what to do with her, and I think that goes all the way back to Monty not really knowing what to do with her.
That seems like a weird thing to not know what to do with. Like, I mean, you know, yeah, sure, hindsight is 2020 and all, you know, we looking back on it and everything, but I don't know. I feel like it's probably more that a lot of times they did know exactly what they could do with her, but it was somewhat mundane and unoriginal, and so they just decided to do something else, even though it sucked.
Like, I don't have a firm grasp on my characters when I first write them, but like 9 years in, you would hope that you would have a better grasp of like what their character arc is, what their dynamics are, what they should be doing every step of the way. Even when they're not getting major plot focus, they should be doing something, even if it's just in the background. Like they do that with Volume 6 with Jean. Jean's not in Volume 6 very much. He's in like the first episode, then he comes back in for the last third, but he's still like has a strong presence because they know what they're doing with him in that volume. Like, they know that he is protecting the people on the train while Team RWBY separates from their group. He knows that, or they knew that he hated Osmond and that he blamed Osmond for Pierre's death, and that, like, the revelation of Salem being immortal sends him over the edge, and he starts lashing out at Oscar. Like, that is at least something. Love it or hate it, it is something. Which is more than I can say about Yang in Volume 7.
I forget what exactly they did have her do in Volume 7.
Partner up with Blake a whole lot.
Yeah, just being with Blake the whole time, which is, they still never fix Blake, so it makes Yang's character worse because Blake has always been the worst written character in the show, besides Oscar. But she's never been
Blake
good, so it
makes
makes
one of the worst
Yang worse.
characters too. Like,
there's one moment where they almost actually do something with Yang, and it's when Salem manifests through the seer and is like, "Your mother said those exact same words to me," and RWBY starts freaking out, and Yang goes to comfort her, but also Blake does too.
The reason why Blake is so bad is she falls victim to the worst possible issue that a story could have. And if I cared about editing, I would make this like video essay. I'm still going to do it at some point. I feel like if I bother to learn how to edit and, get footage, the worst thing a writer can do is what the writer thinks the audience thinks of the character does not actually match up with what the audience actually thinks of the character, right? So, for example, like Professor Umbridge in Harry Potter, she's supposed to be fucking hated, and you fucking hate her, right? Good character. Nobody complains. No, you don't complain about that. It's a great character. Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender is supposed to be like a likable character. Most everybody likes him, right? So it fits, right? But then you have characters like Rey in the Star Wars sequels. You're supposed to like her. Not everybody actually likes her. Or Holdo. You're supposed to think she's right, and the pilot guy, I forget his fucking name because he doesn't matter either,
Poe.
is wrong.
Yeah.
But no, she's an idiot. Yeah, Poe. But Holdo is an idiot, and so the writers think she's right, but no, the audience fucking hates her. And then Blake is the same thing. The writers think that Blake is this misunderstood, but she's got the right ideals. She's just trying to figure things out, and she's an activist and all this kind of stuff, and she's doing the right thing. And here's the thing: I'm probably the most liberal guy on this server. I am not against those ideals at all. I fucking hate Trump. I am very anti-MAGA, all that stuff. So that I'm not against those ideals. Okay, I want to point that out. But Blake is not well written like that. She's like the performative reading boyfriend who is like, oh, I'm goes to fucking cafes and tries to preach to everybody that she knows about their plights, even though she knows nothing about it, right? She's the I know better than you liberal. You know what I mean? She's the exact wrong kind of socialist, is essentially what she is. So the audience doesn't feel the same way that the writers think the audience is supposed to feel. There's a complete disconnect with Blake's character. So that's why she's such a shit character. And again, I have to break, because she is a political character. Yeah, she's so cool. She's idealistic. She's fighting for the right thing.
Well, she's so cool and so mysterious, but she fucking yaps like no one else in the team.
Yeah, she's not mysterious. She's not deep. She isn't that kind of actually fighting for the right thing. She's not, again, it's like I'm not against those ideas.
Was kind of a little bit of a misplay on their part.
And then also, here's the other thing. And this is coming from somebody who is a liberal myself, right? Imagine all the people who aren't like that. Everybody who's not like me is going to automatically hate Blake because she is the annoying, bleeding heart liberal style character, right? And you can make that kind of stuff work. You can make Republicans like liberal characters. I mean, fucking Jesus is a communist, but you have MAGA thinks that Jesus is their hero.
I disagree with
so
both of those.
You can do it,
but that's just uh,
I can explain
yeah,
it. There's other examples of it though.
I get the gist of it.
You can
I
get
think everyone who
you get the
watches
gist of it.
me gets the gist of that.
Yeah. So her character doesn't work regardless of who you are, unless you're like a really, really dumb liberal who doesn't understand anything about your actual political beliefs and you just go along with her, or if you're just like an edgy teenager who thinks she's the cool edgy teenager, right? So she pisses everybody. She pisses conservatives off because she's everything they hate, and she pisses liberals off because any liberal that actually knows anything about politics or how you're actually supposed to be a decent liberal, she is the exact opposite of that too.
What's
She's
the
the worst
fucking
kind of person. So,
groundskeeper Willie meme?
He hates other Scottish people. Damn those Scots, they ruined Scotland.
oh yeah, yes, exactly. That is exactly what Blake is. Yes. Okay.
I know
Yeah.
you haven't watched Ice Queen, at least not yet, dude. But I actually kind of dig what they did with Blake in Ice Queendom. Mostly like
Will that just make me more mad because they did do that with her on the actual show?
uh, well,
But
a lot of
I'm open to watching
a
it.
lot
I'm
of
open
it
to
is
watching
like
it.
just Weiss's perception, like Dream Blake. Weiss's perception of Blake in the dream is kind of like this half human, half faunus thing. Like she has the bow on one side and then a cat ear on the other, and she's got like cat claws and a tail as well. And it's this she's called like the woman in black by all the people loyal to the Ice Queendom. That she like keeps getting in and out of the Ice Queendom, and they're having a hard time like shutting her out like they do the other faunus. And it kind of comes to a head when Blake fights a very like dark atomified version of her, like complete with like Adam's weapon and mask. This potential of like what she could have been as manifested in Weiss's subconscious, because that is a version of Blake that Weiss had thought about during like the whole Volume 1 situation, where like she didn't know like where Blake's loyalties actually lied. Like, was Blake someone who was trying to find a better path, or was Blake just a straight up spy for the White Fang that was out to kill her?
I think that the show probably actually would have been better Blake-wise if they had not already had that answer figured out at before the beginning of the show for Blake. I think if
Yeah,
Blake
the black trailer kind
was
of
still
spoils
offended a little,
Blake's where Blake is at.
I mean, that was basically like her whole character arc resolution right there.
It
That
was done in her trailer. Yeah.
yeah, like
It would have
it
been her character would have been so much better if she went into the show still aligned with Adam and she was trying to like infiltrate and the whole thing of like let's say volumes 1, 2 and maybe even 3 were the her learning through her interactions with the other characters, like especially like Weiss, for example. Like as Weiss performs, it convinces Blake that her
humans
way of
are
doing things is
bad or
wrong and that
something.
Adam is wrong, and that's where her arc goes. And if she and then just completely leaves all that behind, that would have been such a better
Well,
character
maybe,
for her.
end of volume 3, it kind of occurs similarly. She relapses a bit, goes back home. Adam, she is now somewhat doubtful of Adam's stuff. Adam at that point is like more trying to convince her over to his uh, that she was right before and everything she was doing was good. Then she maybe actually gets involved with one of his plots, but she realizes that the plot is actually bad and so
Yeah,
abandons him midway through. And then she goes on
yeah,
that
it,
arc of Adam is now kind of pissed off at her, but he still wants her back with him. So there's this whole far more complicated dynamic between them going on
yes,
where he doesn't necessarily
that
want
would
to
be
kill
great.
her. He just maybe wants to bring her back. He's not a psychopath or some as he was,
Yeah,
like
if 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 the writers wrote Blake, because that's them writing Blake as if we're not supposed to be agreeing with her, at that point we would be rooting for her to change, right? And that would be okay, right? We'd be rooting for her to do the right thing and to be a better person. Whereas the writers, as of the whole show, they think Blake already is the right person, is already doing the right thing, and we're just supposed to agree with her. Which, no, she's a selfish asshole the entire fucking show. And the thing
You
is,
see this
she's
like
not. The
mirrored
thing is,
in a
she's
lot
not
of.
wrong with saying the faunists have been discriminated. Like anybody would just agree with that. That's fucking true, right? She's not wrong about that. But they just make her such an asshole about it that we can't even sympathize with her. She's so far up her own fucking ass the entire time that she doesn't even get the sympathy points of being a discriminated race.
Well,
It's
yeah,
not. It should be so easy to make us root for her, and they still fuck it up.
I think this is that kind of mirrors what I said because like they it seems to me that a lot of the character things are sort of with Weiss, Yang, and Blake resolved too quickly and for not good reasons and so, like what I have suggested for all three of them is kind of like a mirror version of each one where they have this one figure in their lives that shows them an alternate path that they could go down. And it is a path that is like legitimately tempting to them. Like it's not an easy choice. It's not like something where they,
I mean,
uh,
it's the Zuko arc essentially.
Weiss should have been the one to get Ren's arc in volume 7 and 8. Weiss should have been the
Yeah.
one tempted to join
Yes.
Ironwood
Yes.
and become a full
Yes.
blown Elysian because like he
Yes.
had already
Yes.
extended the invite in volume
Yes.
4. Like she clearly like respected him in that moment, standing up to her dad. Like she has no love for her father. She has all this love and respect for Winter. Like Winter could have like very easily like tempted her, and I again like by the end of volume 7, she still would have teamed up, signed on with RWBY, but she should have been the one to question like, are you sure we shouldn't like just try to talk things out with Ironwood? Are you sure we shouldn't like try to like
Yeah.
fix this bridge that is getting burned down? Like I know Ironwood is more responsible for this than you are, RWBY, but like I know that they kind of like teased that a little bit by having Weiss be part of the group that gets Amity up and running, because that was Ironwood's plan. That's the plan that Ironwood and Weiss believed in. That is the version of Ironwood that RWBY and Weiss trusted. They should have just done more with that from Weiss's end. And it would also just given her something to do during the arc where they're in her hometown. Fancy that.
Yeah. Shut up, media. You're just pissing me off more because this would have been
well,
so much better. Would have given Weiss a better character arc, made her more interesting, and it would have saved Ren from character assassination at the same time.
they also,
And we didn't get that.
I think they kind of like introduced too many characters that were sort of just like one-shot characters that they overplayed during that whole
Oh,
thing.
they've been doing that the whole show, though. Team
Yes,
Coffee, anyone?
yeah, they've always had that, and it has distracted attention away from the more
Mm-hmm.
important ones. If you're gonna have like a background character type thing, like just they should probably be more background. So they should probably like if you're going to interact with them, the interactions should be relatively simple and probably only occur during certain moments when they're absolutely necessary. Like yeah, they don't need to be their own whole thing and have their own whole arcs and stuff that detract from the main cast, especially in terms of like screen time, because that's a limited resource anyway. You don't got a lot of that to work with. Uh, so
Yep.
I'd say that was probably what they was kind of like the misplay during the well, part of it during those volumes is that, and that's why they weren't able to do stuff with Weiss and the rest of them that much is because
Yeah.
they focused on they shifted focus to things that they probably shouldn't have bothered focusing on.
Story of the show. All right, I need to wrap up because it's almost 11:30 here.
I'm about ready to wrap up too. This has been an excellent podcast, by the way. I've loved the topics of conversation. I know as far as like other RWBY content, there are those like bonus shorts that I have not seen. RWBY Fairy Tales, which I've only seen one, and I just don't acknowledge it as canon. There's also the Justice League crossovers, which I also have not watched because, boy, do I not give a fuck about the Justice League right now.
Well, I mean, there with all that content, we could totally subject ourselves to it and do more
If you guys are
I
down
was
for it,
gonna say I'm down.
I'll suffer through it
I'm
too.
down.
And then of course, if either of you end up watching Ice Queendom, I would definitely be down to talking about that again. Especially now that like I feel like throughout the course of this podcast, especially like I've kind of convinced myself that Ice Queendom is really good. Because I was very much lukewarm about it when I did my reviews of it. As it was coming out, I was like, this is kind of like whatever. It's interesting. Like, it's got some cool art, some decent animation. But, like, digging into what I want from Volume 10 and what we got throughout the last couple of volumes, I'm realizing that, like, there's a lot of really cool things about Ice Queendom that we could talk about if I had someone to talk about it.
Hey, I'm down. Okay, I'm gonna get on this because I miss talking with you guys. This was so much fun. And High Powered wasn't even here. I wish he was, but I'm sure he'll show up for some other stuff. Because we're gonna have time to fill. Because this volume's gonna take a minute to come out. I'm pretty sure that's quite clear that it's not gonna come out.
I know we were approaching the 100th podcast when Volume 9 ended. I think, if I remember correctly, this might be the 99th one.
We need to
let's go on your YouTube channel real quick.
There are 98 videos in the podcast playlist, but some of them might be like compilations.
All right.
So this is 99. Okay, so we are getting close to 100. We got to do something for 100.
I mean, what would be the 100th podcast that would be good to do? RWBY Iceberg, top 10 RWBY moments. You won't believe RWBY said this.
RWBY trivia. I'll have to proctor that one.
Man, I would lose that one. I got brain damage. I barely remember half the episodes.
Like, I would have to be the one coming up with the questions because I have this whole fucking series perma-fried into my brain. I'll have to kind of fudge around with like which of these videos I do and don't consider a podcast. Because there's one where it's like let me scroll back up and find it again. Where it was me and High Power just like faffing about talking about Volume 5 that I ended up recording. And it's only 34 minutes long. We were recording it while we were hanging out with Kitty while she was doing her art thing. God, that was 7 years ago?
Dude, we're old, man. We are old.
My hairs are getting gray.
Oh, my hair's been gray for a minute, dude. We're going to get... Dude, the show is probably not going to come out to where our podcast is 10 years old. Can you believe that?
9 years. To think we could be married to Muhammad right now.
So I see that, and then I see one highlight reel. So this will be episode 97 of the podcast.
Wow. I got married and divorced in the span of one RWBY season. That's how much RWBY we've got. So,
RWBY,
things are slow.
Watching RWBY is like that one scene in Interstellar where he's in like the fucking mirror universe or whatever.
So what do we want to do first? Ice Queendom and then the Justice League?
I'd say Ice Queendom at least.
I say Ice Queendom just because I've already seen it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can subject myself to Justice League bullshit.
And you've got a photographic memory, so you don't have to watch it, unlike me, who would have to go watch it because I haven't seen it at all.
Okay, I will start watching Ice Queendom, and we can schedule another podcast for that. Sounds good, and then we'll go from there. I am down to suggest myself to the Justice League thing too, because the last time we had a podcast, I didn't have the free time to just go in and do all this stuff. But as I told you guys off recording, I think I've spent in the past since February at least 250 to 300 hours reading visual novels, and this is while having a full time job, a 2.5 hour commute, lifting weights every day. I've got the time to throw myself into some RWBY garbage if I need to talk to you guys some more. Now I can. I couldn't before. Now I can. So I'm down to do it. I'll even subject myself to the Justice League stuff if you want to talk about that later. Even if it's awful, it'll be fun to talk about. I won't, you know what I mean? I'm totally fine with that because if it's shit, trash is fun to talk about too. So,
I mean,
all right.
hey, we went through 14 podcasts talking about Volume 5, so I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good. We can do it.
We can do this.
We have the ability. We can do it. Yeah.
To wrap up, I just want to reiterate that I am a published author. I have 3 books out: The Hellfire Brats, The Nephilim Strain, and The Grand Selection, with book 4, The Golden Key, coming out at some point this year when I'm able to pay my cover artist. You can also find me on Twitter. I am technically on Patreon. I don't really check that much, though. That is just if you just feel the desire to contribute to my wallet. I don't really ask for anything. I don't really have any bonuses or specials that I can do right now. I just don't have the time. And I also have the live show. I'm not going to be putting this up before my next live show, so I think it'll be like episode 10. I have them on my off days, which are every Tuesday at whenever I get back home from running errands. So it's inconsistent time, but it is always on Tuesday, unless I have something else to do, like I did last week. I had to do it on Wednesday. But at least once a week I go live and talk about all the shit that I've been watching and doing. Like watching Witch Watch and trying to find time to finish up My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which is actually...
I have nothing to advertise because I do other things on the internet, but they're completely unrelated to this, and I don't want the people from either of my interests to find me in my other interest. So, yeah.
So what you're saying is you want your fandoms to be segregated.
Yes.
I'm perfectly
You'll love Ice Queendom.
I'm
all right.
fine with like people finding me other places, but you will have to look. Okay, I'm not going to just hand out the information. I have a Twitter and a Substack where I occasionally post poetry. I forget what those are called because I don't post often on there. I also have an entire underground gun trading network that the FBI doesn't know about. You can find me there. Otherwise, nothing else to advertise.
Yep, you all have a wonderful night and or day, depending on when I decide to upload this. Bye.